Good evening and welcome to Mental Health Matters with me, Dr Audrey Tang, and my co-host Judith Crosier. As you can see, things look a little bit different today, and that is because our producer's ill, which means that I'm going to be producing and presenting as well, and we're going to have Jude in the main studio with our guest. Today's show is full of inspiration, but also heartbreak. We have Jo Varsani joining us. She has an incredible lived experience covering domestic abuse, financial abuse in particular, but she has also been able to build herself back up again and is one of the most inspirational people you will ever meet. So we're going to go across to the main studio.
Jo, welcome to Mental Health Matters. It's lovely to see you. We're going straight over to Audrey at the production desk, who's going to ask you our first question.
Okay, thank you.
Hi Jo, thank you for being here, and excuse our strange setup. I am producing today as well as interviewing. You've faced just about everything and you have come through it and you are thriving now. Do you mind sharing your story, please?
Yeah, so it all happened 20 odd years ago when I got married very young at the age of 21. Coming from a South Asian community and family, as soon as you don't want to go further education, university, and you're working full time, you're almost expected to get married, have babies, and so on. So I think it was at that time when my mum said, well, you know, you've had a gap year, you've done really well at work, and you don't want to any more study, so the next step is to get married. And I got married at the age of 21. Thought I was in love, very young, naive. And by the age of 23, I was a single parent.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. And within that, you really experienced something which we haven't talked about enough on this show, financial abuse, and it's not understood. Do you mind explaining what happened to you?
Yeah, so the guy that I got married to, I did not know that he had gambling issues. How it worked in our community was that you were introduced to somebody, so almost kind of like arranged marriage, but you had the option to kind of like go out on dates with them and to, you know, see if you have a rapport. And on the surface, he was a lovely guy, you know, made me laugh. And I thought, okay, you know, what have I got to lose? My mum and dad have chosen him for me, so there can't be any faults. And then as the years went on, even just when we were dating actually, it was always my treat, my turn to pay for dinners. He was always, you know, either out of pocket or hadn't been paid, or there was always some sort of issues. And I didn't really think anything of it because debt is not something that I've grown up with. It's, you know, it's in our community, you know, you pay, there is no credit, you pay off what you buy, you don't have credit cards or anything like that. So I was completely unaware of any of that stuff. So I just presumed, you know, he's telling the truth, as you would. And I just was paying for dinners and everything. And then when I got married to him, the stories and the lies got more and more outrageous. So it was like, you know, oh, my friend's car's got clamped, he needs £500, he needs it right now, I promised I'll sort it out for him. So my ex used to drive me to the ATM machines and, you know, withdraw cash all the time. And because I had worked quite a long, when I was growing up, and obviously I took a gap year out and done quite well in my career, I had a bit of money behind me. So every other day it almost felt like I was being driven to the cash point by my ex and, you know, something's happened today. And it got to the point where I was literally a walking bank for him. And again, I was just so much in denial that I just thought my husband needs my support. I'm able to offer it to him, and you know, why not? It's my duty to look after my husband. It's my duty to be there for him through thick and thin. And it's just something that I didn't classify it as abuse going on. I didn't even register it until much recently, actually, that was financial abuse I was going through. So yeah, and he was in arrears with mortgages and loads of, you know, he had over 50k debt to his name when I left him. But this is all going on behind my back. You know, I was heavily pregnant at that time and the letters were being opened by other family members in the house. and I was oblivious, and nothing was, you know, happening in front of me. It was all the meetings, all the conversations were happening behind my back when I was at work. But the only thing that, you know, I was present for was being the cash cow and being driven to the, you know, ATM, and, you know, I promise I'll pay you back, I promise, and that promise just didn't turn up.
What I'm hearing there as well is the collusion from members of the family. That's a betrayal in itself as well. How did you, if you don't mind me asking, A, find out, and then B, begin to assert your independence after?
I think I knew at the back of my head something was not right, because how I was being treated in the household was very different. My mother-in-law, my ex-mother-in-law, used to do the ironing and other bits and pieces, and I used to always find my pile was always left untouched. And it was like, I used to say to my husband at that time, you know, I don't know if mum's okay with me, but, you know, there's bits that I'm feeling. Oh, it's just in your head. It's just, you know, it's not, you're just thinking it up, and, you know, it's mum doesn't think like that of you and whatnot. But what little I didn't know at that time was that my ex had actually borrowed money from my ex-mother-in-law and said, Jo needs £500. So rather than my mother-in-law actually coming up to me and asking me and saying, oh, see, it's been a few months now, you know, what's going on? You know, when are you going to pay that cash back? She kind of like almost had her own vendetta against me.
Because she thought you were taking her
100%,
money and not paying it
she
back.
then started to treat me differently in the house. So I thought, you know, something's not right. And when you're in our situation where you're kind of like inheriting a family, then you're moving into somebody else's house and following their rules and things like that, I was kind of like just learning the ropes and being flexible. And I thought, is it me? But then there's just so many things that weren't just adding up. And I think they, in the end, said, oh, it's because you're pregnant, we didn't want to worry you. But I think it was a bigger piece of the puzzle, because his dad, who'd passed away before I met him, had gone through something similar. He was very flamboyant with money and had actually even got the house repossessed at one stage where other family members had to help out. So it was almost like the chain of cycle was going on. So it was more, I think, in terms of they didn't want to be shamed or feel ashamed that it was happening. So when I found out, it was at the tail end of things when my ex had actually taken out loans in my name and his mother's name, but then made it out that, you know, I've done a signature. So there was a whole hoax of things happening.
Fraud as well.
Yes, there was loads of things. And I still had to pay that debt after I left him because it had my name on there. So I carried that debt throughout my whole of my adulthood life, really.
Oh, that's just adding insult to injury, isn't it? So, you know, could you start to assert your own independence from that situation? How did you do it?
I think the independence was asserted with the help of my parents, because I'd left it for such a long time not to tell them. I was the youngest in the family and almost like a black sheep of the family, because I'd done everything against the grain. You know, I wasn't interested in education, wasn't interested in quite a lot of things. And I thought, I'm the youngest in the family, so I thought, if I can't even get my marriage right, you know, and I'm going to bring shame to my parents, and they're going to be something else they're not going to be happy about. They're going to be ashamed of me. So I kept it. And in the meantime, I was suffering a lot of mental health issues, a lot of suicidal thoughts. And then I just broke down, and I just thought, you know, every little girl's dream is to get married, to be in a, you know, loving relationship. And I thought, this can't be it. My husband would walk in at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'll be crying. You know, he wasn't around for my pregnancy, he wasn't around for when my daughter was born, any of the antenatal classes and things like that. And when I decided to tell my mum, she just said, pack your bags, that's it. Wow. And that for me was like, no, you know, we can work through this, we have a child together. You know, he keeps saying he's going to, you know, promise me things will get better, but it didn't. And I think she gave me that oomph to say, enough's enough, come on. Yes. Because they'd also helped out with his credit card debt as well and paid it off. And he'd made promises to everybody to say, you know, I'll sort it out. So the independency came almost inherited by somebody else saying, you're better than this. And even when I packed to leave him, I only packed for 2 weeks because I thought he's going to come to his senses. Things are going to settle itself. You know, how can he turn his back towards his daughter? And I think my daughter was just under 1 year old at that time.
Oh my goodness.
And that 2 weeks just led on to months and years.
Oh, goodness me. Well, thank goodness for your parents.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. That's really hard. During the darkest moments, what was it that did get you through?
There was loads of dark moments, and I think because I was in a really good, stable job at that time, my background is care related. I used to work with elderly. I used to go and do care calls. I was a manager in a domiciliary care agency, and I used to go and do care calls on the weekends and evenings just to put money together. And I think when I used to see other people, like every breath I was taking, there was always someone that's taking the last breath. So for me, that was almost like, do you know what? You've just become a statistic. You've become a single parent. And I think when I accepted that around my head, and it took a long time because I was in denial for over 2 years after I left my ex-husband, that he'd call back. Every time the phone rang, it's got to be him.
Yeah.
You know, every time I heard a car pull up, it's, you know, he's come to get us. You know, he's realised, you know, he does love us and all these kind of things. So I guess for me, through my darkest times, what got me through was no matter what I'm going through, there's somebody else in a worse position. And you know what? My problems are not that difficult. I can actually get on top of things and I can move forward. But someone that's taking the last breath, they can't move forward, you know.
I suppose it puts things into perspective.
Yeah.
But still, that's a very positive spin on what must have been a really hard situation. What would you like other people to know? If they think there's something going on with their friends, something not quite right, how could they help a friend in that situation if they think something's not right?
I think if you're a true friend, I mean, I did not have any friends around me at that time because I got married young. All my friends were at universities, living the best lives, so I didn't have anyone to talk to.
Gosh.
And coming from a South Asian family, it's not something that you'd openly go and talk to your parents about. This is what I'm going through, because it's like my mum had this attitude where it's like, just get on with it, you know. What you're crying for, you know, it's happened, move on from it. And I'm quite an emotional person where I just wanted to release and talk to somebody. So I think, you know, if you're a true friend, you know, you will see the signs, because that person will not phone you anymore. That person, I went into myself. I was fantastic at work. I had a fake face on, full of smiles. And then as soon as I got into my car on the way home, that's when the tears were opening, and I was constantly crying in the evenings, and just a shell of a person what I was. But as soon as I get to work, I knew I had to be brave for other people, and I had to put on a show. So I think, you know, what I would advise is really check in on people, not just say, hi, you're right, actually wait for the response, are they okay? You know, check in, have a conversation with them once a week or every so often. Not heard from you for a few days, you know, how's things going? And actually wait to hear, because I think what we're really bad at doing is we just go, are you okay? And then presume that person will say yes, and then just pass it on, right? But yeah, the listening is the best key. I mean, I just wanted someone to listen to me, even if they weren't able to physically help me. If I had someone that was able to listen to me, it would have just made the load lighter, whereas my suicidal thoughts were just getting heavier and heavier.
That's so hard. And if just one person had reached out to say, I haven't heard from you for a while, that might have made a difference to you. Brilliant, thank
Absolutely.
you.
I mean, Jo, thank you for sharing that story. Jo is going to stay with us, and we will be back just after this.
Hi, my name is Dr. Constance Leland, the host of Level Up Circle, where I elevate the world through education, one learner at a time. Join me on Fresh Takes, Thursdays at 9 a.m. PST, right here on E360 TV.
Welcome back to Mental Health Matters After Hours. As you can see, the setup is slightly different. I am presenting from the production desk. We have the incredible Jo Varsani with us. She has been sharing her story of financial abuse. If that's resonated with anybody, we do have links in the show notes. But we're going to just go back to the main studio with Jo. Rebuilding your life, it's challenging. Where do you start, and when do you get that moment of, do you know what, I can do this?
I think the pivotal time for me to really come to my senses was when I was actually in active suicide. and I had my daughter in my car with me, and the dark thoughts were so bad and severe that I was ready to take my life. And I thought, if I take my life, I've got to take my daughter with me, because then she will be in a better place with me. That's how my thoughts were at that time. And when I had my foot on the accelerator in the car, ready to go into a tree at full speed, I don't know, call it divine spirit, call it whatever you wish, something came and just clicked, and I was like, I think the last gaze I looked, which my daughter was sitting in the back seat, and her face, and I was like, I just snapped, and I was just like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
You know, I've just become a statistic. I can move on from this. And then everything from there was accepting, being adaptable, that this has happened. Just get on with it, because now I had to be the breadwinner. I had to be the dad. I had to be the aunt. I had to be the uncle for my daughter. And I wanted to be a role model for my daughter, and for her to say, do you know what, no matter how things get bad, there's always a solution after a problem. And I think for me that was the most important part of my life, where I just thought, I need to change this around.
That's amazing. That is, you know, it. And I'm so glad you had that moment as well. That's so important, that people talk about interruptions, and that can make all the difference in one of those times. You have grown, you have been able to process, but of course old patterns, old feelings come up. How do you navigate those? How do you recognise them and navigate them?
I've done a lot of work on myself, so lots of self-development. I known best what us women are so used to doing, being resilient, is just, you know, when everything's happening around you, just got to get it done. So I always had a goal that, you know what, I'm going to prove it to his family that it wasn't my fault, because I was held responsible for all the debt. I was held responsible that, you know, she's ran away with the daughter. And I just wanted to do a big up yours to the family. Yeah. And that was the fire in my belly that I needed to have, to say, I'm going to prove it to them. And at the age of 27, I was able to put a bit of money together and buy my own first 3-bedroom house.
Oh, fantastic.
And when I do have dark thoughts, you know, or I get back to that time, I've learnt to do a lot of self-love as well. Because I always knew that it lies with me first. If I'm not working properly, mentally or physically, then that's going to affect my daughter.
Yes.
If I'm always shouting, if I'm always in a bad mood, that's going to affect how she is being brought up. So I've done lots of soul searching, lots of self-healing, lots of development. I've got Reiki done in the past as well, which was, you know, tremendous. Listening to podcasts that are uplifting, just being around people that are, you know, and sometimes when you go on these kind of journeys, you do lose loads of friends along the way, because you are known to be different, you're known to be, well, she's not, you know, part of the gang, or she's not thinking the way we think. And I just had to focus on my priority, which was making sure that I'm a good mum for my daughter.
Goodness me, yeah. No, I can see that there was a lot going on there, and you had to think about yourself and your daughter first.
Yeah.
But what services, you've mentioned Reiki, what else helped you through that time?
I'd learned about Samaritans much more further down the road, after I had actually left him. And I actually found out about Samaritans doing my work in care, because a lot of elderly people were very lonely and isolated at work. So when we used to go and look after them, and someone told me about Samaritans, and I was like, oh, what's that? So I'd actually phoned up Samaritans a few times, and I'm proud to say that I'm actually been an active listening Samaritan volunteer for the past 11 years.
Oh, well done.
And I always find that when I go into my Samaritan duties, it still heals me, you know. I get a lot out of it compared to probably the callers, and the callers are always thanking us and, you know, saying, oh, thank you so much. But I feel like it's my me time, and I love giving back, and so Samaritans really helped me, and I found God, as oddly as it sounds. I hadn't gone through a lot of experiences where there were services available in our community, so I had found God at that time when I was going back and forth in court cases and, you know, trying to get custody of my daughter and things, and I just turned to God, and I believe in you know, my Hinduism faith a lot, and I'm very spiritual as well. So I knew there was always going to be a light or something, because that's what helped me and that's what saved my life. So that's what got me through it, yeah, just my faith in God.
Wow, that's amazing. And what do you hope to that other people may be going through something similar? What hope can you bring to people who are watching? And when you share your story, you know, how do you hope to help other people?
I think what I would like to say to other people is that, you know, there is another life out there waiting for you. You know, don't be ashamed, because I blamed myself for my marriage breakdown. I blamed myself that, you know, what could I have done for him to not turn his back against us? And I really started blaming myself internally. And it's, you know what, it's not your fault. You know, when it's something to do with financial abuse, it's not like he's cheated on me so I can blame another person. He needed support and he needed that guidance and help, and because he wasn't given that right space or time by his family, I had to walk away, because I knew things would never ever change. And don't be afraid to just walk away, because you have another life out there waiting for you, and there is a lot more hope out there. And I also had another dependent that was relying on me.
Yes.
And if I just fell to bits, there would have been anybody for her. So for me, that was the biggest drive, that, you know, if you yourself know, gut feelings, this is not right, this is not what it's supposed to be, just get out. I wish I got out a lot more sooner, but it's made me the woman that I am today.
But thank you, that's a real hopeful message for people watching. But you did get out you said you were 27, is that right?
I was 23, yeah.
You were 23 when you got out,
yeah.
So actually that's only 2 years, that's really quick. A lot of people would stay their lifetime, or you know, a very, very long time.
I think the biggest regret that I have is, as much as I love my daughter, my ex is not a part of her life at all, because he chooses not to be. We've reached out to him a few times and he just chooses not to be. But I think if you don't have children and you walk away, I still carry that guilt of, you know, with my daughter, that, you know, could things have been different, and I wish she had that father figure. So I still carry that guilt around, whereas if somebody that's within their first year of marriage or first year of being with somebody and they can see the signs, get out as soon as you can, because it's never going to get, you know, once a liar, always a liar. Things are never ever, unless if they actually accept that that's what they're going through, or they're a gambler, or they have got problems that they want to sort out. It's not something that you can fix for people.
Yes.
If that person is able to accept, then you can go on the journey of, you know, self-love and healing and work together. But if that person is always going to lie to you, I kept thinking, what's next? You know, what stories are going to come out next? How many more times do I need to look over my shoulder? Who's coming after me for wanting money? And even the relationship that I've built with other men in my future, I had a very high stance where my guards were up high. As soon as somebody was nice to me, what's the agenda? Why are you being nice to me? Because I didn't have that loving relationship from my first husband. It was, well, how can they like me? You know, do they know that I earn this much amount of money? And it was I was always, let's just say that I probably missed out on lots of opportunity with different relationships because my guards were up so high.
Because your lack of trust, because of your experience,
100%,
of course.
Yeah.
No, I completely understand that. So now, what do you do to protect your own well-being and stay healthy, both mentally and physically?
I do lots of journaling. I love a good old-fashioned book and pen and paper, and I just, anytime I'm having thoughts, I just write things down. And I also have this meditation that I do, even if it's just sitting still and being still and silent, especially nowadays when you have the social media and there's just so much noise around. I just sit still, and I'm a firm believer in gratitude, you know, because we're so in the moment of looking down on us and I'm not doing well at this, I'm not doing good at that. And actually, when we take a step back and go, I'm really thankful for just having a heartbeat. I'm really thankful for, you know, somebody gave me a hug the other day, or I'm just thankful that my little boy, who always tells me forever he loves me so much. And it's actually, there's so many blessings in disguise that we live through, but because we don't acknowledge them, we kind of like want to, oh, you know, I want that, I want this, I want that. And actually, our blessings are somebody else's demise, right? So I always feel like, you know, like I said before, my one breath is someone's last breath. And it's actually just having that thought and keeping yourself grounded and go, this negative thought I've got, right, let me accept it, let me understand it, let me find out why it's coming in and how can I do better to get rid of it quickly. Whereas before, I used to have negative thoughts that were coming in. I used to push it. I used to call it like a little box in my head. Just push it to the back and put a big padlock on the box. And that's when things started seeping through. The padlock started to break, and the dark thoughts kept coming in and out. But actually shining light on those dark thoughts and accepting it, and actually going, do you know what, today I'm feeling bad, actually. And do you know what, as soon as I have that cup of tea, or as soon as, I've listened to some uplifting music or whatever it is that makes you feel good, even that having that cheeky cookie or whatever it is that makes you good for 5 minutes, but it's that positive vibrations that you send to your body that has a long-lasting effect. So I'm, like I said before, I'm very much into spiritualism, and the vibrations that you send in your thoughts, like out the whole day, we have thousands and thousands of negative thoughts and a handful of positive thoughts.
Yes.
And if we were to switch it around, imagine our body is just so radiating that, you know what, no matter anybody says anything to us, or if people are coming with you with negative thoughts, you yourself are so happy from within that you just don't acknowledge it. Like now, my partner will come with me and he'll say certain things, and I'm like, because I'm so into myself and in my inner voice, I just see it as a problem. There is got to be a solution. Right, let's just digest it. Let's take a step back. Let's have a look at it from all different angles. Right, okay, now we can address this properly, rather than going, oh yeah, that's happened. Oh no, what we're going to do? Because it just eats away at you. So I think just having a different mindset and just having people around you, if you're lucky enough to have people around you. I'm lucky and fortunate that I've got another child, and my kids are my go-to everything, my blessings. And I was fortunate when I was going through my career that I had a really good mentor. One of my managers actually saw potential in me, and she was the light that I needed at that time. And she gave me a good rollicking of saying, sort it out or you're out of a job. And that really was like, come on, get on with it. So yeah, having the right people. And if you know that you're getting dragged down and pulled by people around you, it's time to cut corners.
Yeah.
Cut ties. And that's one thing that I found very difficult to do, cutting people out of my life. But I found that a lot of negativity people wanted to just be around me. And almost, I felt like I was a radar for them. Like, I must have had it written on my head, like, if anybody wants to take me for granted, just come. I'm available.
Then you get drained, don't you?
Yeah, and I was getting drained because I'm quite an emotional person. So if I listen to someone's story, I would keep their energy and I would release my positive energy in them. And I believe in smudging, which is an ancient ancient American Indian thing where, you have sage. So anytime I have negative, even when I'm talking to people or I'm doing Zoom meetings, I always sage myself. I'm forever going around saging my kids in the house, and they go, Mum, get away. Having a bit of salt next to me as well. So I believe in all, crystals, having crystals around me. So some people call it woo-woo, but for me, I feel like that's, works for me. So, everybody has their own things that works for them.
And it can all be very grounding, can't it? So
and I still, I'm quite fortunate that I've got my Samaritans family, I call them, where, we can still bounce off to each other. And, we all have bad days, but it's making sure that you're actually releasing it and talking about it. And as soon as it's out, that's it, it's done.
I love that, where you acknowledge negative thoughts and then you deal with it and move on and replace that with positive, rather than just hard locking away the negative thoughts. That's really lovely.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jo. You are such an inspiration.
Yeah, really.
It's incredible. We are keeping you, and we'll be back just after this. A world without the arts is one without confidence, creativity and community, and yet funding has been reduced every year. Arts programmes have been shown to benefit social inclusion and well-being, particularly for marginalised groups, with projects fostering a sense of belonging, cultivating mutual understanding and breaking down social barriers and isolation. Participation in arts programmes can help boost confidence and open doors to opportunities that may otherwise be inaccessible. Click Arts Foundation offers grants up to £2,000 for grassroots arts projects twice a year, with our community arts experience trustees meticulously scoring each project on impact and sustainability. To date, we have supported craft and visual arts projects, dance, drumming for wellbeing, and preservation of heritage and culture. If you share our passion, not just for maintaining the arts themselves, but contributing to the many benefits it can bring, please consider making a donation to Click Arts Foundation registered charity.
Our passion for coffee goes way beyond the cup. We believe in a fair production chain in which each coffee farmer plays an essential role. We are proud to support our communities and promote environmental sustainability. Bedford Coffee Roasters guarantees an exceptional experience for producers and consumers. Join us on our journey to extraordinary coffee, where quality, sustainability and fairness come together to create an experience unlike any other. Ground with passion, served with pride. Bedford Coffee Roasters, coffee worth drinking.
Welcome back to Mental Health Matters After Hours. As you can see, the setup is slightly different. I am producing as well as presenting today. We have the fabulous Jo Varsani. She has been taking us through her lived experience of horrific financial abuse. Please, if you've just tuned in, do rewind it. You need to hear her story. You need to hear her story of resilience. We have got her over in the main studio. And Jo, rebuilding your life, it's people face challenges and their default actually is to give up. For you, it wasn't, and that's incredible. How do you think that's a personal grit thing, or do you think it's something we need to learn? What are your thoughts on resilience?
I think it depends on people's circumstances, really. My grit was my daughter. I had to move on for her. Some people are not so lucky and they are in it on their own and can go down a downward spiral. But there was something in me to say, do you know what, you're better than this. So resilience for me was, making sure that I was healthy mentally, physically, so that I can pass on the knowledge to my daughter, because at one day, she's 21 now. Wow. She's going to be at that stage where she's going to get married soon, and I need to make sure that, she's going in with knowing the knowledge of, it can easily happen to her.
So with that, there are other people who also will just keep holding on in a situation which doesn't serve them. You let go. You were able to walk away despite how difficult that might have been. Yeah. So what would you say there about letting go? I
think the biggest reason why people don't let go is because they're always in denial, or they think that this can't be happening to them, or on the other stance, why is it happening to them? And just accepting it that, it is what it is, and let's just move on. This is not how life should be. When you read books and watch movies and you see a happy ending, everyone should have a nice happy ending, which whatever that looks like for some people. For me, it's, I was a single parent for 10 years. And, my happy ending was my work. I succeeded in my work and my career path that I chose. And for different people, it's different things. But I guess it's just accepting that this is what they're going through and not pushing it behind. Like, I had a whole room full of letters. When I went through my phase, I had bailiffs knocking on the door, and I used to duck and dive. And I used to have letters from debt collectors, and I had a room full of letters that were not opened. Wow. And I had like parking tickets, which I then actually sat down and started opening the letters. Something that I could have paid £60, I ended up paying £500 because I chose to bury my head in the sand. So I think it's actually just going, do you know what, it's happened, let's move on, because otherwise things could get worse. And for me, it was getting worse because it was happening mentally. I was telling myself things and it was going round and round until it was like, right, stop. Put your big girl pants on and just move on. So, definitely it's acceptance, I think, is the biggest thing.
Goodness me, you paint such a vivid picture of how your life was then. Thank you. Do you have, say, 2 or 3 top tips for our listeners to sort of be resilient and gain that inner resilience that you found?
I would say one of the top tips is just being healthy, more than physically, mentally. You just got to be healthy. If this is working, then everything else will follow. When you're thinking something's not happening or you're having an off day, just go out for a walk, just some fresh air, just listen to some music, just go out for some fresh air, and the endorphins that it releases in your body, you'd almost feel better when you come back and go, do you know what? I was being silly. What's you know, that's such a tiny issue, what's going on? Having some time out for yourself, self-love, is so needed, even if that means just having a cup of tea in a quiet corner. You know, you don't have to go for spa days and nothing extravagant, but just something that involves not without the social media, something you can do. Reading a book, you know, I still love, and I'm opposed to having a Kindle, I still love the texture of how a book feels and smells, and, you know, just writing, journaling. Don't be afraid to have thoughts. You know, express those thoughts, you know, just do a brain dump. I do that quite often, even now when there's lots of noise that are happening and I just want to be still. I just brain dump into a book. And then for me, I can then dissect it and go, right, okay, that was the biggest noise, which is about finance, or this is about work. Okay, now let me compartmentalize and deal with this. Because when it's too much happening inside your head, that's when it becomes really overwhelming.
Yeah, okay. Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you. Great tips there. And what is next for you?
What's next for me? Yeah. So there's loads of things in the pipeline. I am doing my own podcast, actually, for women empowerment. So I would love to champion women that are in a male-dominant industry. I myself work with my husband and work in the logistics industry, which is very heavily male-dominant.
Yes.
So I'm going to be doing podcasts of women in different industries and actually championing them and being a voice. I still love giving back. So, you know, if it's doing things like, you know, supporting meals to homeless. We do lots of work with charities. Samaritans is a big thing for me. Yeah, I've also become a first aid volunteer from a local charity as well. So we do go and do local events, which is a non-profit organisation as well. Wow. So yeah, just keeping that momentum going, just keeping grounded, you know, like success for me, what it looks like financially is much more in a better position than I was. But for me, money's never mattered. I think from what I've gone through, I've seen money come in one hand and go out the other. I know my purpose in life is to give back and to be, even if I make someone smile, I know I've done my job and that's what I'm here for. So for me, giving back is such a big part of my life.
And that really shines through from everything you've said as well. And where can we learn more about you?
So you can look at my Instagram handle, which is Jo_Varsani. You can look at our website, which is www.thefss.group. And yeah, Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn as well under Jo Varsani.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you for bearing with us in our strange setup today, but wasn't it a show that you just don't want to miss? That was absolutely, for me, one of the most inspiring shows we've recorded. So huge thank you to Jo, huge thank you to Jude as well, who is at the moment there because she needs to listen to make sure my mic's working and so on. That's why one of us needs to be producing. Please do remember that if you need any support, we do put links in the show notes. Our morning show that goes off at 8 a.m. PT on E360 TV, Mental Health Matters. Office hours is all about workplace wellbeing. And we will see you again next week on Mental Health Matters After Hours. Have a good night.